Let's move to agenda item 6, Finance Committee report. Chair Davis, you ready?
Item 6.2, Finance Committee moves that the board approve R277-445 classifying small schools as necessarily existent, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Thank you. The motion then is that the board approve R277-445 classifying small schools as necessarily existent, draft 2 on second and final reading. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you. Item 6.3, committee moves that the board approve R277-471 Incorporated Document School Construction Resource Manual, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Thank you. The motion before the board then is that the board approve R277-471 Incorporated Document School Construction Resource Manual, draft 2 on second and final reading. Chair or Member Carey.
Again, Chair, if we could have a date or some type of designation where the public and even future boards may know what exactly was incorporated.
Yeah, since we just had a unanimous vote on this last time, I'm hoping that without opposition, we can just request of staff to get this done, and Superintendent Hart make a note of that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Or Member Carey. I'll get back into it. Chair Davis.
Number 6.5.
I'm sorry. You know what? I turned it back to you, and we have a motion on the floor that we didn't get to vote on. We just had a quick. So let me restate the motion, and we'll take a vote. The motion then is that the board approve R277-471 Incorporated Document School Construction Resource Manual, draft 2 on second and final reading. Member Earl.
I do have a question. If there are, for example, Energy Star is referenced in here, I believe it's on page 48. I guess the question is that nationally that may not be there in another couple months, and I just wondered if, well, gosh, just let me make the motion, right? So it would be changing Energy Star to energy efficient products is, I guess, what the word would be. Let me look it up real quick. Sorry. So
you're looking for something more general.
Yeah,
in case
just general, so that
change.
if that programming changes, you still can look for energy efficient products, but it's not tied to a specific program that could be coming or going.
So let's get a motion.
Okay, that's the motion, is that it's energy efficient products and replacing Energy Star.
Chair Davis, I know I can see you're looking back to see if.
Well, I just want to make sure that that language isn't specific in code, because we aligned this to code,
Yeah.
I believe. Sometimes they make it specific.
And who are you?
I'm looking at
you've got the
Deputy
light,
Jones, but I don't want to put him on the spot because I know he's talking. Is in the school construction, is Energy Star specific language in code, or can this motion be changed to, what did you say?
Energy efficient products.
Efficient products.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, do you have a response?
Deputy Superintendent of Policy Elise Newey. So I know who I am. Oh, shoot. Okay. Anyway, seriously, sir. No, it is not in policy that way. It's in our resource manual. So Dean Dykstra, our school construction specialist, is changing it to match the
More general language.
more general language. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so that is happening.
Through the chair. Yes, that's happening. Yeah.
So do we need
there was
this
some email
amendment
exchanges
then?
before. Yes,
Okay.
it would help us so that we have the paper trail on why we updated the resource manual to be consistent with
And I
Great.
rules. And
Great,
okay.
let's vote.
And I just ask that staff work it in instead of us going through and, you know what I mean, doing the whole.
So your motion then
Change it
is
to
that the
that.
board replace references to Energy Star in the incorporated document with energy efficient.
Yes, and it could be product, it could be, I mean, whatever it's related to, so yes. Energy efficient. It could be products. It depends on how it's referenced.
Scott, can we put you back on here and say, what would this look like if we're trying to make it more general? Is it a product? Is it a organization?
Yeah, I don't know. Is Dean here? Sure, Sam. Okay. Yeah, I would have to check with our school construction specialist. Energy Star, you know, I don't know if you recall through the chair, you may have seen that label on appliances, things like that. So I think, I'm not sure if they're a company or it was part of a, you know, part of it. I think the Energy Star referral should be removed and make it more general to answer your question about what it would look like, because we are going towards that in the resource manuals, which we know are not rule. Mm-hmm. We know they're not thing, but to be consistent in the application of the resource manual, we need to turn away from that. Does that help answer that's my recommendation, that we turn away from any reference to Energy Star at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not a criticism of anyone or anything
Right.
like that. It's just, I think that Energy Star was around years ago, and so now we've progressed, and so my recommendation, the staff's recommendation, is to remove any reference to it. So.
And I think that's what the motion is.
Yeah,
Yes.
that works.
What we're searching
Yeah.
for here is, what do we replace it with? Because if we read it in the rule, it would read something. May I? Sure. Would it say
Applicable-
agendas goals for energy efficient to earn the energy efficient designation, right?
Yes.
So it's
Yeah,
kind of
something
doesn't-
like that. I mean, I'm not a good word doctor, but something like that says that promotes energy efficiency.
Okay, so we need a name. Do we need a few minutes just to brainstorm, or
Yeah.
remember, Earl, you got it?
No, I think you can more general label such as energy efficient. I have no doubt that they can read this, figure out that maybe you don't say energy efficient, right?
Yeah.
I think staff can figure that out. I just don't think we need to spend time on that. I just think just saying go more general without the Energy Star, you just put more efficient language in for more efficient places.
Yeah, Chair, if I may,
Please.
that's what staff recommends as well, because then that gives us the opportunity to put the language correctly in the resource manual.
Yep.
Okay, so the motion before the board, and it has been seconded, is that the board replace references to Energy Star in the incorporated document with a more general term such as energy efficient. So if I'm understanding correctly, Member Earl, I want to make sure I'm understanding your motion. You're saying with a more general term such as energy efficient, you're not requiring staff to use that, but you're telling them to be more general. Thank you. Speaking to this motion, I've got Member Davis, but I don't know if it's because you're chairing. Are you speaking to this motion, Member Davis?
Actually, just go ahead.
Okay. Is there, as this is an amendment, is there any opposition to removing Energy Star as a company and moving to a more general term? Is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, staff will work on that and get that taken care of. Thank you, Member Earl. Back to you. Or actually, we have a motion then that will read that the board approve R277-471 incorporated document, school construction resource manual, June 2025, close paren, draft 2 as amended on second and final reading. Let's vote formally on this one. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Chair Davis.
Thank you. 6.5, the committee moves that the board approve Weber School District's Innovation Online 7 through 12.
Yeah. Sorry, we did the document. Now we're on to 6.4.
I have to make, okay. Committee moves that the board approve R277-471, school construction oversight, inspections, training, and reporting draft 2 on second and final reading.
Thank you, Chair Davis. The motion before the board is that the board approve R277-471, school construction oversight, inspections, training, and reporting, draft 2 on second and final reading. Seeing no lights, let's vote.
Six 6.5, the committee moves.
Hold on one second. Let me get one more vote and call this out.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, that passes. 12 in favor, 1 abstention, 2 in opposition. The abstention from Member Carey, the opposition coming from Member Green and Member Bogus. Go ahead, Chair Davis.
Thank you. 6.5, the committee moves that the board approve Weber School District's Innovation Online 7 through 12 as a statewide online education provider.
The motion before the board is that the board approve Weber School District's Innovation Online 7 through 12 as a statewide online education provider. Seeing no lights, let's vote. That passes unanimously. Chair Davis.
Item 6.6, motion for the board that the board approve R277-726 statewide online education program SOEP draft 3 on second and final reading.
Thank you. The motion before the board then is that the board approve R277-726 statewide online education program SOEP draft 3 on second and final reading.
Since my
I've
light's
got-
already on, but I do have a...
You want to, okay, we'll go back to you and then we'll get the lights.
Yeah, I'd actually like to postpone this to tomorrow, if possible. There's just 4 lines that
So we've got
I think we need to
a motion to
relook at the
postpone.
language. Yes.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Go ahead, Chair Davis, and speak to that.
Yeah, there's a section in it that says that an LEA can't prevent a student from being in the school if they take no classes at the school. And I think it's trying to say you can't prevent a student, if a student takes an SOEP course, then that student still can enroll in the neighborhood school. They can still participate in athletics. They still have special education opportunities. Yes, line set 317, 321.
Okay.
And yeah, thanks for asking. I should have said that before. And we may need to leave it. I think there is language about this in code, and we might have to leave it this way, but it looks like it goes beyond, the way it reads right now, it seems like it goes beyond SOEP and into just kind of in general. And so I just want to double check it, and I was concerned in committee and I should have done it and didn't catch it again till right before this meeting. So I would personally like to postpone till tomorrow, but if everyone wants to move on, that's okay.
Okay, so the motion is to postpone this item, 6.6, to the Friday, August 8th agenda. Member Lear? Sure.
You will, if I may, if you will. I'm wondering, I have one question that might benefit from being asked so that could be researched also before tomorrow. Is that appropriate, or should I just wait?
I think you could ask it. If it's postponed, then obviously you'd have 20 hours to.
Right, right, if time permits, but that's fine. I'll ask it tomorrow.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote then. The motion again being that the board postpone this item, agenda item 6.6, to the Friday, August 8th agenda. Is there any opposition to this? Seeing none, we'll put that on the agenda for tomorrow, and we'll kick it back to you, Chair Davis.
Oops. 6.7. The committee moves that the board directs staff to report the costs of getting Aspire to appropriate levels to interface and interoperate with USIMS to the 508 Advisory Council to to develop recommendations for the Legislative Public Education Appropriations Committee for use of some of the 10 million one-time funds for LEA SIS upgrades.
The motion before the board is that the board directs staff to report the costs of getting Aspire to appropriate levels to interface and interoperate with USIMS to the 508 Advisory Council to develop recommendations for the Legislative Public Education Appropriations Committee for use of some of the 10 million one-time funds for LEA SIS upgrades. Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just have a question maybe regarding the anticipated costs and time of finding out this information. I don't know who best to direct that to.
I believe we could ask Scott if you'll direct that to him.
Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones. So the time is not is negligible. We actually have a lot of that data. In fact, as part of the 508 committee, and Elise or Patricia could speak to that, they did a survey on costs and those types of things too. So we're there. I mean, there might be some additional data or information that we would need, but the time on ourselves or the staff here at this level in the LEAs wouldn't be that much. They have that data.
And then just a follow-up question. Do we know how many LEAs rely on Aspire currently and the breakout between district and charter?
Chair, yes, we do. It's 103, 3 districts, 100 charter schools. Does that answer Board Member Carey's question, sir?
Perfectly.
It does.
Thank you.
Perfectly.
I know. Thank you. Thanks. All right.
I'm gonna move, and this, I'm sorry, Chair Davis, I'm gonna apologize now. I'm gonna move that we send this back to committee. And I'll speak to it if I can get a second. Thank you. We had some discussion on this. We've been talking about this for months, and on what we should do, how best to support our LEAs, the resources that we can provide here in the agency. Aspire has been around for a long time. It has struggled for a long time. And now, as we talked in committee, we're faced with the question, do we want to put our staff in a situation where they become the experts, right? Where they fix these problems? And I am not ready to do that. I know that there are organizations out there and companies who have gotten where we already want to be. And so I'd rather, one of two things, I guess I'm saying I'd rather discuss this in committee because I'm not ready to vote to have Aspire, have our staff take $10 million and try to work on Aspire. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if you got a light. Well, I've got Member Kelly, Member Bogus, and then Member Davis. So Member Kelly.
Two of the 3 districts that are using Aspire are in my district, and I have spoken with the 2 superintendents of those school districts, and they're waiting for us is really what they're doing. They're waiting for us to make a decision in terms of what direction they move in. So the one thing that both of them requested is that when we do make a decision, when we rule on this, that we give them time, to implement any change that they may have to make. But they're ready and they're waiting for us to decide, and they will make their adjustments according to how we choose to move forward. So,
thank you, Member Bogus.
Thank you, sir. So I would argue that your motion is unnecessary, Chair, because the motion is not asking our staff to do anything. It's asking for them to tell us how much it's going to cost, should we choose to move in that direction. So the motion itself says that we're directing our staff to report back to us on the costs of getting Aspire to appropriate levels. We're not asking them to do anything more than tell us how much this is going to cost. And then my understanding from the Finance Committee discussion is that those costs will first come to our committee, and then we'll come back to the board. And the Finance Committee will then have further conversation. So I would offer that I don't believe your motion is actually necessary and that we should vote on the initial motion.
Member Davis, and then I'll respond.
Yeah, I think what we kind of understand is that Aspire to do what this is asking would be roughly a little more than 10%, which represents the roughly a little more than 10% of the LEAs that are in Aspire. But I think what we just heard is accurate. This is just asking for information to be brought to us, but also to the 508 committee. So all things considered, what is most cost effective? Is it going to be Aspire maintenance? Is it going to be moving to a vendor? Is it going to be USIMS plus 3 or 4 selected limited vendors? But we are asking, as we are the owners, not vendors, that our information be given so that they can consider all things in totality when they are looking at their decisions to make recommendations to us and to the legislature.
Yeah, thank you. In response, my motion, the reason it's here is I get that I could be in the minority or just be a standalone. That's fine. I don't want to waste the time, quite frankly. I don't want our staff to go down that road. The more I think about it, the more I think, what are we doing here? What's our goal? And there are companies out there who have figured it out. And I don't want to spend the time. I don't want to say, okay, staff, go research this, tell me how much it is. I guess I'm telling you I'm ready to vote no now. That's why the motion is here. So that's why the motion holds. That's why I think it's relevant. And that's me speaking to it. So seeing no other lights, let me restate the motion. We'll take a vote and then we'll move forward. So the motion is that the board send this item back to committee to continue discussion. Member Kelly?
I guess I do have a question about your motion because we're sending it back to the committee to decide what we're going to bring to the board in the next board meeting. Is that what your motion is?
Yes.
Okay.
Member Carey.
It's that, but there's also these other elements. Oh, never mind. So when you say this item, you're referring to the motion. You're going to send the whole motion back to committee, which I support. It's not just the Aspire component. There's also developing recommendations and for permission to use some of the $10 million. So this just isn't a let's go back and study. There will be a proposal to spend some of this $10 million as well, separate and apart from Aspire, if I understand the motion correctly.
You want to speak to the money issue? Yeah, go ahead.
I can speak to some of that. We already have to develop recommendations as part of the 508. So this motion, no matter what happens to it, doesn't change the work that we're already doing. It doesn't slow down our 508 work where we're already having to make recommendations. This is an additional piece. The way I see it, it's additional piece about the cost of getting Aspire to an appropriate level, which the part that concerns me is what does appropriate mean? That could slow our committee down. We've got a deadline under 508. We'll do whatever the will of the board is. But the work on 508 is still going to continue, and we're still going to develop recommendations. This just talks about an additional piece of getting Aspire up to up to speed. Does that make sense?
Okay, Member Davis.
Again, I think we've got a number already. It's like 1.2 million or something. It's just making sure that the committee has access to the information while they're talking about the whole thing in its entirety. Nobody's going to make any decisions here in this moment or this motion. It's just making sure they get the right numbers. That conversation that Superintendent mentioned is going to be one that will be decided by the users likely, because that's how it's being decided currently. And that will ebb and flow. As we know, the 10 million isn't enough moving forward for any of these vendors or Aspire. It's more like a 40 million endeavor. But just for this initial step, we're just asking that they get the information that we had in committee.
Member Kelly.
Yeah, through the chair, Superintendent Hart, is there a time certain for 508 to finish that one, and what is it?
Phone a friend, but I think it's September 15th, from what I recall. Did I get it? Yeah. September 15th, we have to have a report to interim.
Okay, so should we be waiting to make a decision on this until after that?
That's your call, but it would be, it could be less you could be not duplicating your work.
Because at this point, the schools, for school year 25-26, their SIS system is in place. This isn't going to, so yeah.
None of this would probably
right.
go
And so-
into effect, I would,
there's-
multiple years.
There's no sense of urgency in making this decision.
No, from what I'm hearing, this is giving the committee more information in which to inform its decision-making and
On the whole of Aspire.
on the whole of Aspire.
Right.
And I'm fairly confident that we will get that information, whether this motion is made or not, because we're simply going to ask Deputy Jones, and he's going to give us the information.
Okay.
Right, Deputy Jones?
Thank you.
It doesn't. Oh.
Well,
Hey, you guys be quiet back there.
you don't,
You say that.
I
I don't know who did that.
I-
I'll
we have
investigate it.
We have it. Yeah, we can investigate. We can get the information to
Yes.
508 committee. We can get the information to our internal team. There's no problem with that.
Right. Well, if I may, Chair, just for additional specificity and clarity, the requirement of 508 is to make recommendations on the future of student information systems, basically, right? Within particular parameters that are outlined in there. So this was an attempt to ensure it is what it is. The board is the body that runs Aspire, that provides a student information system to 103 LEAs across the state. So this was only an attempt to make sure that the consideration was inclusive of Aspire, because that's, the 508 committee wouldn't be able to really make a recommendation if they didn't know what the board wants to do with the future of Aspire. And this is what you're doing, is you're providing, direction to be inclusive of, asking the 508 task force to be inclusive of consideration of Aspire among all the other SISs and their capabilities, and getting the cost of what that would be would actually help 508 then to determine what recommendations they would make to or for use of the $10 million we've been currently appropriated, and if more funding is needed, not only for Aspire, but the other systems as well. That's all this is. It's only because it is what it is. You are the body that utilizes Aspire. What the intent, though, is from the committee is to put the recommended report in front of you in your September meeting, right, which is September 5th, I think. In the legislation or the law, the report is required to be submitted to interim or education committee by September 15th. That's where that's coming from. But we really do want to make sure that you, the board, see what the results are from that committee before it does get submitted to September 15th. Does that help, sir? That concludes my input.
Ish. Yes. So I've got a couple of lights here.
No, wrong. Can't do it. You got it.
I'll just speak to the board briefly before we go to Member Davis. If this isn't going to matter to them, this I'm not going to rescind this motion. It belongs to the body, right? So we can vote on it and we can keep talking about it. But either way, it sounds like we're going to get some answers soon, and we're working with 508, who are going to provide their thoughts on the matter before we take an official vote. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay. So there is a motion on the floor. It does belong to the body. It's that the board send this item back to committee to continue discussion. Is there additional discussion to this motion? Member Davis.
I have a substitute motion that this agenda item continue in committee and that this information gets to 508, because it sounds like there are some unresolved concerns and that we may want to make recommendations as a committee in addition to what the 508 committee recommends and working group recommends. And if that is the case, then we can do both. They can have accurate information to make the decisions they're making, and we can assess if we want to come out with something that says everybody dislikes Aspire and we don't want it considered at all in the future. That's something else for the committee to discuss. But this is just getting information to 508 right now.
So we have a
I
substitute.
spoke before you put that on the floor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We have a substitute motion from Member Davis that this item continue in Finance Committee. We have a second. Any additional comment to that, Member Davis?
No.
Member Carey?
I support the substitute motion. Just one question. I think Board Member Reel sits on the 508 committee. Is that right, Sarah? Do you sit on that? And I just want to say that when I've spoken to other members of that committee, they appreciate the input and direction that Board Member Reel is contributing to that discussion. When it comes down to a formal recommendation as to what this board wants, what our preference is, do we have that process and procedure worked out? Will we direct Board Member Reel? Does that come from leadership? Like, what happens with that?
We have not officially given Member Reel any guidance, with the understanding that Member Reel and all of us, when speaking to a board item that has been discussed and voted on, that's what we speak to. So nothing where we sit down before each meeting as leadership.
Understood.
I don't know, Member Reel, do you sit down with superintendency? How do you get your questions answered? That's if I'm building on to Member Carey's question.
Thanks, Chair. The task force is made up of, it's an incredible group. OIT superintendents from large districts to small charters to small LEAs. It's a really well-educated group that has a lot of experience with SISs and the systems, and everyone. Trish has done such an amazing job leading that group in a way that is knowing that we are going in trying to solve a problem we don't go in with a solution, and everyone's on board with that. And so there's been nothing really right now we're trying to solve a problem. So we're not making any decisions at this point. But I'm sure I welcome any input, but I lean deeply on the expertise of the entire task force. It's full of like the best experts in SIS systems in the state of Utah. So.
Member Carey, follow up, or does
No.
that answer your
No, that
question?
works. Thank you, Chair.
So the substitute motion before the board then is that this item continue in Finance Committee. Just for clarity, what would that look like, Member Davis, with the other stuff that's before us now?
I just am requesting that it be agendized for September, and then we can have that conversation. But I also had the same question of Member Carey. Like, is it or is 508 going to come back here? Are we going to make a recommendation as well? Or is 508 just going to go to PEA and then PEA decides and we're out of it from here on out? I mean, sending it back to committee, not back, but continuing a conversation in committee about the larger issue would be moot if we don't have a say in the process.
Elise, you got your light on? Are you going to help us understand the role of 508 and our role in 508?
I'm using my amazing phone a friend. But our understanding of the law, so the law requires that you set up an advisory committee, and it outlines exactly what that is supposed to look like. And then that advisory committee is required to then submit their recommendations to the legislature through the Ed Interim Committee. At no part in the law does it say that you need to approve it or provide additional recommendations. That's not to say that those would not be welcome in addition, but that's the way that the law is written.
Any follow-up? Okay. Vice Chair Wood?
So just a question on this motion. If you continue it in Finance Committee, is the recommendation to share the information to 508? I get that it's going to get there anyway, but I like that it comes from the board. Is that still part of this mission? Because you made it a substitute. So you basically eliminated everything that was there except for continuing the item on your agenda.
Member Davis, that's directed at you.
The substitute motion would be to continue the conversation in the September committee and to give the information to the 508 for their considerations now. Might I ask, when is 508 reporting to PEA? Oh, that was that date. Okay.
That's the September 15th date, is that right? Okay.
But like Deputy Jones said, our timeline is to get it on the board agenda for the September meeting, so that you have your eyes on it. You've now heard the law, but obviously we want, you to have your eyes on it, and you can make recommendations or you can do what you want with that at that time. I guess I would really encourage, if you have questions or things that you would like the committee to consider or strong considerations, please just communicate that so that we can get it in front of the committee. The committee is large and diverse. These are merely recommendations, so it's not the way forward. They are recommendations, and they'll come with all kinds of other information and caveats, and it's not the thing that's going to happen. So please, just any input you have through committee or just otherwise, please forward it on so that we can discuss it in committee and get it integrated into the recommendations.
Okay, I've got a handful of lights, and again, we're speaking to this committee to continue in finance, or this motion to continue in Finance Committee. So, Member Kelly, then Member Reel, Member Davis.
If this is out of order, put me in line, but my question is to the original motion. Is the original motion adding to what 508 is already doing, or is it what 508 is already doing? I would direct at the Deputy Superintendent Jones, yeah.
There's a delay on the mics today.
Me muted. Okay, so sir, through the chair, to just emphasize this, because Aspire is where it's at, we really needed to make sure that 508 was aware of our input in representation of our users, just like all the LEAs are part of that equation as well for their chosen systems, right? That's all. This is, and then it was added on to, determine the price. and make that, put that in the committee or the, what are we calling it? Advisory. Yeah, to do it. So my answer is yes, it's what the 508 advisory is doing, but it's us making sure that all things are considered by them, including Aspire. Does that help?
So
Chair?
yes, this original motion adds to what 508 is doing.
It makes sure that Aspire is included in the 508 considerations.
Got it.
Is that a fair answer,
Yes.
Chair?
Thank you.
To Board Member Kelly.
Thank you. My apologies. I'm looking at this line of motions up here, and I think we're offline, but yeah, we have so my motion is a substitute motion. Member Davis's substitute motion is, it'd be a motion to amend, or it shouldn't be on there. So the motion that is, and I'm sorry to have wasted everybody's time here, but the motion that is before the board then technically is that the board send this item back to committee to continue discussion. Since we're bumping Member Davis's substitute motion because there is no substitute motion to a substitute, I'm going to call on Member Davis to see what she'd like to do.
I can just amend to also include sending the information to the 508 committee. But my question, might I address you personally instead of as a chair procedurally? Because with the intent of what I think I'm hearing you are expressing, would it be better to re-agendize that for full board in September to give considerations to the 508 committee before September 15th? Or is your intention that we discuss this more thoroughly in committee, bring it back to full board in October, and then give our own suggestions to PEA that may be different from 508 later?
My well, I don't know if we'd send it to committee.
It's too late to agendize it for
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Just vote it down. People just vote it down.
Yeah, I mean that's the easy one. Yeah.
Then we should have
But
just voted for the
to
first one.
To your question, my intent was not to rush this and put it back on the full board. But I hear the things around me. I'm, so. Member Scott, go ahead.
Chair, please, may we pull up HB 508? It mandates that you, the board, have to make the recommendation. Yes, but they have to. You have to submit the report to the ad interim committee. Look at the top line of it. Top. Well. Okay, magically. Well, look. Okay. Yeah, I know. Well, but look, just. I know. But look at what the law requires. Please.
Okay.
So if we backward plan that the date of submission has to be to not PEA, so please change that wording to ad interim by September 15th. In order for the board to meet this part of the law, we were planning on putting it in front of you in your September meeting. Does that make sense? So
Scott, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes, sir.
I feel like this horse is dead.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Are we ready to vote? I feel
Okay.
like it's
Okay.
clear to
Okay.
most board
Great.
members,
Okay.
if not all, that we do have a time constraint. We
Okay.
do need to get information by September 15th, which means we do have to have a decision by September 5th. Or September 4th, whenever the board meeting is. Is that what I'm understanding? So, yeah, well, I'm just,
Law.
then let's amend it. But that's what I'm saying. I feel like we're circling here. Let's go ahead, Member Davis.
I'd like to amend that the board agendize this item for the September full board meeting and send information about Aspire costs to the 508 committee in the meantime.
Okay, so the motion before the board then, the motion to amend is that tell me how this is amending.
It's giving the information, but that it's giving us the
Member
final
Davis,
say.
can we just vote my motion down? Can we just do that? And then you'll have free reign to make a substitute motion. I hate to plead for you to vote my
then
motion
it's three
down, but
motions.
just
But then you have to make another motion to agendize it for September.
well, I'm
meeting.
saying we can get your motion here, but in order to do it appropriately, we need to get rid of one. So here's what I'm requesting is that we vote for Member Hymas's substitute motion, and then I am fairly confident it won't pass, but if it does, I'm sorry.
That's just fine.
And then we'll get
'Kay.
yours on there. Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board send this item back to committee to continue discussion. Let's vote. Have to vote, yeah. Okay, this fails, 14 with 1 in favor being from Member Carey. Over to you, Member Davis. You have a potential motion.
Yes, I move as written. Is it on? For September? We don't even have it. Executive committee hasn't even met for September yet. Chair, what do you want to do right now? I'll do what you want to do to move this meeting
to
forward.
agenda item 6.8. That's what I want to do. So, but we need to get through this. So we have a motion on the floor, right? My motion failed. The substitute motion failed. So the motion before the board then, if we scroll up just a little bit,
Needs a second.
this is the one that came out of committee, right? That's what's before us now. Yeah, so again, my substitute motion failed. The motion before the board is that the board directs staff to report the costs of getting Aspire to appropriate levels to interface and interoperate with USIMS to the 508 Advisory Council to develop recommendations for the Legislative Public Education Appropriations Committee for use of some of the 10 million one-time funds for LEA SIS upgrades. That's what came out of committee. That's what's on the floor. From what I understand, it's already, so this would meet the intent of your, what we had discussed for some time. And it's already on the agenda for September 5th. So that's what Vice Chair Wood was saying, is that we wouldn't necessarily need a vote for that. Member Carey.
I have a motion to divide.
Okay, motion to divide. Do we have a second? We have a second to speak to that, Member Carey, and divide it up.
Yeah, so I'd propose that this be one motion, that the board direct staff to report the cost of getting Aspire to appropriate levels to interface and interoperate with USIMS to the 508 Advisory Council. And then the second part of the motion, or the separate motion, would be to develop recommendations. And then if I could speak to it.
And we have a second, so go ahead.
Yeah, this has struck me that we're approaching this, I think, in a backwards fashion, right? It's going to come down to, I believe, does this board support, one SIS system across the state, or does it favor, letting LEAs letting the LEAs, choose their own? And I think if we were to address that, then these other issues are ancillary in that decision tree. But we're just picking out branches that we want to address because maybe it furthers the narrative we want or the discussion that we want to have. But I do think that the 508 does want the information. So I'm a little confused because when the motion was first made, we were told we don't know what it costs, and the original motion was to find out those costs. The substitute motion now is report the costs. So in 10 minutes, we went from we don't know the cost to let's report the costs. So I don't know, and I've heard one number bandied about. I've never heard it before. So if the 508 needs that information, I think great, let's provide it. But I think as part of that, the full board needs to know the costs of that and where those numbers came from. But I don't think that same time pressure applies to the second part of the motion, which is generate these proposals for spending. And I think, dipping into the $10 million, especially when we know that's not enough money, should we be dipping into that money to explore these things that may in the end prove unnecessary? So that's why I'm dividing the motion. I'm going to vote against both because I don't think I've seen no support for the 1 point, I don't know what the number was, but I'm certainly not going to vote to send a number to a committee composed of legislators and esteemed individuals across the state when I've seen no evidence that it's accurate or where it's from. And we have the time. We're going to meet as a full board in September. Our report isn't due till September 15th. I don't think that there is a pull out all the stops, let's make this happen. So I made the motion. I'm going to vote against both because I think we have enough time in September. Thank you.
So before us right now, before we get into too much of saying whether we agree or disagree, right now the motion is to divide.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
That's okay. The motion is to divide. So we are going. I don't know if we want to have discussion about dividing. Member Davis, your light is on.
Yeah, I mean, it's neither here nor there if we divide. I mean, we could just drop the second half and just vote on the top, which is the only key piece really that stands, is that the 508 committee get accurate information from us about costs as they are getting from Power School and all the other vendors who are being considered in this whole big cost effectiveness discussion anyway.
So motion to divide is before the board right now. I'm seeing no other lights. Is there opposition to dividing? If there is, then let's go ahead and put it to a formal vote. So again, the vote is to divide. Okay, that passes. 8 in favor, 7 in opposition. Those opposed, Member Booth, Member Bollinger, Member Lear, Member Davis, Member Wood, Member Reel, Member Kelly. Okay, so it's divided. Member Carey, you see those divisions right there. Would you like to speak further to those? Okay. So we will first take the first motion, and that is that the board directs staff to report the costs of getting Aspire to appropriate levels to interface and interoperate with USIMS to the 508 Advisory Council. Let's vote. That passes 12 in favor, 13 in 3, yikes, in opposition. That coming from Member Bollinger, Member Hymas, and Member Carey. Let's queue up the second vote. Or not the vote itself, but the second motion. The second motion then is that the board direct the 508 Advisory Council to develop recommendations for the Legislative Education Interim Committee for use of some of the 10 million one-time funds for LEA SIS upgrades. Back up.
Can we direct that advisory council? That motion seems to be very.
Hold on a second. Let's get that motion back on back before us. Let's pause or stop voting.
I don't think we have the authority to direct the advisory council to do anything.
I guess I'd ask staff. Staff, is that in order for us to direct or recommend? What's the appropriate language there? Scott?
The consensus is yes, sir.
Yes to, we are fine with the language on the okay.
Tasked with the, putting the council together and then vetting the report, right? So,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarity. So the motion before the board then is that the board direct the 508 Advisory Council to develop recommendations for the Legislative Education Interim Committee for use of some of the 10 million one-time funds for LEA SIS upgrades. Member Bogus.
I'm wondering if we would entertain an amendment to add the word possible in between for and use in the third line of that motion.
So there's a motion to amend. And if you could, who's driving this? If you just put it in a different color up on the original motion, I think that would help us with context. Is that right, Member Bogus?
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion to amend would be to insert possible in between for and use. Is there any, and it's been seconded, is there any opposition to this? Okay. Okay, we're gonna vote on it then. Okay, there's no opposition then? Okay. So the motion then before the board is that the board direct the 508 Advisory Council to develop recommendations for the Legislative Education Interim Committee for possible use of some of the 10 million one-time funds for LEA SIS upgrades. Let's vote. All right, this passes 9 in favor, 6 in opposition. Those opposed being Member Bollinger, Member Earl, Member Booth, Member Lear, Member Brinton, and Member Carey. Okay, so we have had 2 substitute motions. I am not going back to the original. I believe that concludes agenda item 6.7. Back to you, Chair Davis.
Number 6.8, the committee moves that the board direct staff to prepare funding requests for the continuation of the master pilot program to continue at its present levels. This is the teacher leader program. Some asked what the name was.
Okay, the motion then is that the board direct staff to prepare funding requests for the continuation of the master pilot program to continue at its present levels. Seeing no lights, let's vote. Oh, Member Earl.
I just want to draw attention, we just made a change in the agenda. We didn't, but I just want maybe board member Longacre to know that this now is, we're talking about things in the future, right? Am I accurate in this? Like, this is a funding request for legislative, right? So I just wanted to draw attention that, no.
It's to prepare.
Member Davis, use your microphone.
Yes, but this
Please.
is to prepare a business case for possible request for legislation. So it's not just our regular, I'm just trying to draw attention. We've got a little change in what we're doing here, so.
Is that, okay, perfect, thank you. So let me restate the motion, we'll queue it up for a vote. That the board directs staff to prepare funding requests for the continuation of the master pilot program to continue at its present levels. Let's vote. Okay, so that passes, 12 in favor, 1 absent, member Reel is absent, and then 2 in opposition, those in opposition coming from member Green and member Bogus. Back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you. Item 6.9, in the issue of moving the promissory note from American Principals Academy to American Preparation Academy, I believe. The committee recommends that the board approve the transfer of the charter school revolving loan and the amended promissory note.
Thank you. The motion before the board is that the board approve the transfer of the charter school revolving loan and the amended promissory note. Seeing no lights, let's vote. That passes unanimously. Chair Davis.
Thank you. Item 6.10 says electronic devices in public schools. To be clear, this is not about cell phones in schools. It is specific to our secondary providers being held to the same electronic kind of filters and such as our primary providers. So, and the committee recommends that the board approve R277-495 electronic devices in public schools, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Thank you. The motion then is that the board approve R277-495 electronic devices in public schools, draft 1 on second and final reading. Seeing no lights, let's vote. That passes unanimously with member Reel absent. Chair Davis.
Thank you. Item 6.11 is specific to the life-saving devices posted on the walls of schools. And the committee recommends that the board approve R277-400 School Facility Emergency and Safety, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Draft 3 is on our documents. Do you want to double check? What came out of committee? Why do I have a draft 3 on this?
Was amended in committee and then put forward? I don't know.
The amendments in green were discussed in committee, so that would stand, that I read yesterday again. I know the green words came from committee. I don't remember which draft we started from. Why do we have a draft 3 in backup?
What came out of committee?
Do we know?
I believe draft 2 came out of committee. That's what needs to be on the floor. If there's another draft that needs to come forward, then we'll have to put a separate motion.
So, Chair Highness,
Please, Member Bogus.
it appears as if this has been in committee twice. According to our backup, we have draft 1 being referenced as the April committee draft, draft 2 does say board and draft 3 says committee. So I don't know which one we're working from, but it appears as if we had a committee draft twice, 2 months in a row. I'm not certain, but that, I don't know if that helps clarify.
Elise, what can you share with us?
I think we have to do 3.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Superintendent of Policy, Elise Nui. So draft 2 came out of committee with those changes. However, based on a school security task force meeting that was held during the summer, there was additional recommended changes that we wanted to get before the board. So staff presented those. I believe that they worked with board member Carey to potentially bring draft 3 to this body as a substitute motion if that is still something that board members want to do.
That's helpful. So we're
Is that news to
well,
Carey?
I don't mean to put any pressure on any board members. I'm just saying what came out of committee is what Chair Davis reported. So the motion before the board that came from committee is that the board approve R277-400, School Facility Emergency and Safety Draft 2 on second and final reading. Member Carey.
And I am prepared to move draft 3, substitute that. Thank you.
The substitute motion is that the board approve R277-400, School Facility Emergency and Safety Draft 3 on second and final reading. Do we have a second? Back to you, Chair Carey, or Member Carey.
Director Coda is available on this. I'm looking at the language in green, and yes, we did discuss that. There is one provision that I do have a question about, and that is lines 56 and 57. And Director Coda, I can understand why we would want the schools assisting in the academic recovery, the businesses services recovery, physical and structural recovery of school property and equipment. Can you help me better understand the role that the school would play when it says health, well-being, and behavioral recovery means coordinating adequate support to all members of the whole school community after an emergency? What does that look like? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Chantel, thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. Chantal Coda, Director of School Safety and Student Services. Thank you so much for that question, Chair, if I may. This recommendation came from the School Safety Center. And just to add some context for all of you as board members, the School Safety Center is made up of members of the Utah State Board of Education as well as liaisons from other departments. So we work with the Department of Office of Substance Use and Mental Health Liaison as well as the Department of Public Safety. And that recommendation came from them because when we think about school safety, specifically recovery, we look at it through a multidisciplinary lens and a multidisciplinary process. And so when we think about recovery, we have to plan for anything and everything. And so when we look at something such as resources for student support or maybe community support, that may be partnering with other agencies, that may be utilizing resources from other agencies. It may not, but depending upon whatever that emergency entailed. And so this just allows for that opportunity for the school to be part of that, to have a decision in that process, and to be able to direct as they see fit.
Chair, if I may, my concern with it's the language means coordinating, which I think the way I read that, it puts the school at the top of that pyramid, that the school is the one saying the community needs to do X, Y, Z, and even if it's not on the school premises, property, it's written very broadly. And I don't think it's the role of the schools to be the top of that pyramid, right? We have other first responders, we have other emergency personnel that I think are better suited for that. But if I understand you, what you're saying, we're just going to be a part of that. Is there language that you can propose that would help make that clearer? Because I think schools should absolutely play a role in that. But again, as I read it, I'm concerned that our role becomes primary to the community rather than just part of it?
Yes, thank you for that feedback. So I think if we're thinking about language, it would be really that the school would draft the plan and they would have the opportunity to dictate what that looks like. So whether it's coordinating or collaborating or directing, depending on the will of the board or what you see would best fit. I think the intention was that the school has primary oversight of that piece, and when I say oversight, I mean oversight of the plan generically, not that they would have oversight of the specific services that are being carried out. So we could look at maybe using terms such as planning, or maybe add a line that really kind of speaks more to the school creating the plan, and then the services falling in line with the plan of the school or at the direction of the school, knowing that there would be a lot more language in the plan that would really help all of those multidisciplinary agencies come together in coordination with that.
So, Chair, my preference would be if we can just postpone or table this till tomorrow. I can work with Director Coda on this language rather than try to figure that out now. And we can make the motion, and if we can have the debate now, but I think that we can work out a language that makes it more clear, because I'm still unclear as to the role we're asking our schools to play in a community-related event that's impacting the banks, the bakery, the school, and I'm just concerned that we don't force our educators, our principals, and everyone else to play a role that they just aren't trained or prepared to have. So my motion would be that we table this till tomorrow's unfinished business section, at which time it'll be brought back for a vote.
There's a motion put forth to table this until tomorrow. Do we have a second? We have a second. You want to speak additionally on that, Member Carey?
No.
Okay. Member Davis?
Yeah, I can support the motion and understand the concerns with the business aspect and things like that. I do think we had a discussion as well this stemmed from some teachers from West High after the event, but just asking for the school to create a plan, whatever that is, so they know what to do the day after. They said, we have really specific plan. We know exactly what to do when it happened. And then the next day we came and everybody was just kind of fried, and we're like, do we give an extra day for this test that was scheduled today? Do we let the kids go to the counselor? Like, what do we do? That's the piece I think they were wanting, but I certainly support an extra day to get the language clear, personally.
Sorry, we did the same thing we did last time. We have a substitute motion. Well, but we voted for that substitute motion, so we reset. So we do have a motion to postpone. Sorry, I'm trying to get things. So we accepted the substitute motion. Now there's another motion, substitute motion, that the board table item 6.11 until Friday, August 8th meeting. Yep, the new motion is to table. Is there any opposition to tabling this until tomorrow? Okay, let's queue it up for a vote then. And when that's ready, let's go ahead and vote. Voting is open. That passes, 13 in favor, 1 in opposition, 1 absent, and Member Lear is in opposition. Okay. I believe we're back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you. 6.12. Oh, that is I think the rest is all information. Did I miss any? Did I miss one? Am I seeing this right? After all that, I'm still half an hour early? Tell me it's true. No, read
Okay.
that information yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
I believe that with the information items, that concludes the report for finance. Is that correct, Chair Davis?
Yes, sir.